Up first, we're going to talk about the latest media story that's slowly driving me insane. I genuinely think some of the stuff needs to be put into a time capsule. And 10 or 20 years from now, people will open it up and be like, how was this ever unironically taken seriously by well-educated, credentialed, elite journalists? And our entry into that category for today has to do, of course, with the ongoing meltdown and backlash over JK Rowling and her supposed transphobia because of the new HBO series about Harry Potter. And people are saying, like, oh, if you watch it, you're terrible and you're supporting JK Rowling's quest to eliminate all trans people, or whatever kind of caricatured view of her actual views and advocacy that they have. None of it makes sense, yet it's being peddled in American journalism, including with this article that's going viral titled from The Verge, titled, "There is no ethical consumption of HBO's Harry Potter series. JK Rowling has made it abundantly clear that she will continue using her fortune to harm transgender people." This is fascinating because the author argues, and we're going to go through the piece, but that there's no ethical way to watch this show, and doesn't ever talk about, like, you could just pirate it or you could just watch it without paying for it. Wouldn't, surely if your objection was to JK Rowling's financial contributions to female sex-based rights advocacy, which they view as like anti-trans, then the issue would just be giving money indirectly. But that doesn't even make sense because presumably JK Rowling's already been paid for her role in this series, and it's not like a few thousand more people here or there watching it or not means she gets paid more. And then also, I come back to this theme with this issue. She literally has unlimited money. She's worth over $1 billion. This makes no difference. She can still give however much she wants. So why not just enjoy the freaking show and stop being such a scold, such a Karen? But guys, we're going to get into the article itself, which actually gets crazier somehow. But first, do make sure to subscribe, do hit the like button if you haven't yet, and do consider becoming a channel member if you can. I call out insanity on the far left and far right and try to provide an independent, nonpartisan voice in political media. That's, of course, not, in fact, unfortunately, the quickest way to blow up or go become a viral sensation. If you just pander to Team Red or Team Blue, you can do that. But instead, I need support from viewers like you. So do hit the join button or the link in the description to become a channel member now. If you can, you'll unlock early access to ad-free full-length episodes, but more importantly, you'll just support me. And so thank you to the almost 500 of you who are signed up. Anyway, let's get into this article. All of that hinges on whether people will actually watch HBO's Harry Potter, which is being executive produced by Rowling. In some cases, a franchise's creator being so closely involved with new versions of their work can be a good thing, but Rowling's involvement in this show casts a shadow over it that HBO can do very little to counteract. Let's pause on that. Is it really her involvement that casts a shadow on it? Or is the obsessive hate and backlash what causes the shadow? I kind of think it's from hyper online, incredibly woke journalists and commentators and pundits. I kind of think that's what causes the shadow over it, but also, like, we're almost giving y'all too much credit by saying there's a shadow over it. The show's going to be massively successful. The shadow just exists in the media and online. Normal people are still going to watch the show. So, like, don't give yourselves too much credit. Like, oh, we've put a big shadow over this. No, you've just made a lot of noise. But that doesn't mean that people are necessarily persuaded by you at all. Anyway, back to the article here. Rowling has made it abundantly clear that she thinks attacking transgender people via the legal system is a worthwhile cause and a good use of her vast personal fortune. Well, okay, what she would say is that she's advocating for women's rights on the basis of biological sex and their sex-only spaces and causes. One of the things she did is create a shelter for women that biological males, even those who identify as women, are not allowed in. I personally am not scandalized by that. Anyway, back to the article here. As much as Harry Potter fans might be excited to see what HBO has cooked up, there's no way to watch this show without supporting Rowling's bigotry and the structural violence she's inflicting on a vulnerable minority. This is so annoying to me. You see this a lot in kind of left-wing discourse, even from freaking members of Congress on the Democratic side. I think it's Ayanna Pressley, where they literally describe disagreeing with them as violence. Of course, JK has never advocated for violence against trans people or anyone. She's just disagreed with trans activists and has a certain idea about how different discrimination policies and identity-based protections and different sex-segregated spaces should be operated. And like, she's entitled to that view, and it's not in fact violence. And it's actually dangerous, so it's not just dumb. This is where this kind of argument is not just like annoying or cringe, but is actually dangerous. Because if you are able to successfully recast disagreement as violence, then I mean, all it takes is one like crazy trans activist out there to agree with that and then think that, well, okay, if I kill JK Rowling, I'm just self-defense. She was violent to us. Do you all not see how dangerous this stuff is? Or do you just not care? That's what really bothers me about this kind of media commentary and progressive speak, which is much more broad than just one article. It's something they do, that people in that camp do with some regularity, conflate disagreement with violence. No, violence is violence. And once you start conflating the two, get into very dangerous territory very quickly. And I have a real problem with that. And then they're just so misinformed as well with all the accusations they make. So here's this next part. For years, Rowling has trafficked in garden variety transphobia under the guise of being a champion for cisgender women's rights. Last Thursday, in a post praising the International Olympic Committee for banning transgender women from competing, that's not what they did. They just banned biological males from competing in the women's division. They could still compete, of course, alongside other males. Anyway, back to the quote here. Rowling implicitly misgendered 2024 boxing gold medalist Iman Khalif. The post was the latest instance of Rowling using transphobic dog whistles to attack Khalif, which is what led the athlete to file a criminal complaint against Rowling last summer. Iman Khalif is male and has admitted to having a Y chromosome. So then referencing Iman Khalif as somebody who should not be competing against women, especially in boxing, like it was watching Iman Khalif compete and just beat the crap out of these women was terrible. And Iman, it's true. I've talked about this elsewhere. Iman is not a transgender woman by any. She has an intersex condition, which is unique and a different circumstance. But it's still true that the very loose, open-ended policies that allowed people to compete in women's sports without a strict sex test are what allowed Iman to compete. So it's not transphobic to be upset that a biological male beat the crap out of women in Olympic boxing. Or, like, what are we doing here, folks? Elsewise, like they talk in this article about how JK Rowling supported Maya Forstater, who that was like a free speech case. That was about having the right to your own opinions and beliefs and not being bullied into the state by the state into submission with the new orthodoxy. It's like all of this. You're trying to make her out to be such a evil, dastardly woman. And I just keep waiting for the part that's going to drop. I mean, somebody went and dug up the original tweet that started the whole kerfuffle with her in like 2020. And what she tweeted was so milquetoast. Let me read you guys this actually, because I think it's worth highlighting. So here's what JK Rowling tweeted in June of 2020 that got her so much backlash. Quote, "If sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth. The idea that women like me, who've been empathetic to trans people for decades, feeling kinship because they're vulnerable in the same way as women, an example to male violence, hate trans people because they think sex is real and has lived consequences, is a nonsense." Now, in hindsight, the fact that they treated such objectively true and reasonable sentiments as like evil, vicious transphobia is like why they lost and why there's actually so much animus and hatred and backlash towards the trans community now, which I don't support or agree with. But it's like even JK speaks about things in much more absolutist and kind of hardline terms now than she did then, because like you can't bully people and just call them names and for acknowledging reality and then expect them not to be radicalized by that experience. You just can't. And then to play the victim and act like you were right all along, when in fact, no, like you pushed people away, and then you're surprised they're no longer standing with you or even caring if you call them names. That's what happens. That's just the consequences of your actions. I don't know what to tell y'all. Anyway, back to this article from The Verge. The author of this article almost seems to like debunk itself in a kind of hilarious way, but then just keeps it moving. Rowling has been rich enough to pour cash into organizations like this for some time now because she continues to hold primary intellectual property rights to the entire Harry Potter franchise. Every Harry Potter book, movie, video game, stage show ticket, theme park pass, and piece of merchandise that's sold puts money into Rowling's pocket, which she can use to keep her crusade against trans people going. Now here's where the author debunks their own argument. Given the property's lasting popularity, Rowling, who is currently worth about $1.2 billion, could probably do all of this, even if HBO wasn't producing a new Harry Potter series. But because the network is, and it wants to keep the show going for at least a decade, Rowling will have even more capital at her disposal to impose her retrograde views onto others. It is just hilarious that's they're saying that JK Rowling wants to impose her views onto others when part of the examples they cite are about punishing women who think that males can't become females, and JK was against that and they were using that as evidence against her, but then they're saying that JK wants to impose her views on others. It's you realize that's actually your side of this debate that's doing that more, right? And then you acknowledge that she's worth over $1 billion, and yet you're acting like some marginal increase in profit from one show being successful or not, or from buying a video game or anything is at all relevant. The amount of money she's giving to these groups is in the millions, right? And she has effectively unlimited money. She can give however much she wants to give. And virtue signaling like this and crashing out over this and trying to just deny people nostalgic things that they might enjoy is not going to make any difference. And it just makes you guys look unreasonable and unhinged, which in this case, you are. I don't know what else to tell you guys, but it is sad because The Verge used to be an interesting tech outlet that did serious reporting, and maybe it still does, but the infiltration of these kinds of deeply unreasonable and entitled, deeply, deeply entitled people into mainstream media from the colleges, from the universities, from wherever they kind of first encountered and absorbed this identity obsessed, entitled worldview. It's a huge part of the reason that there's such massive decline. It's just one example, of course, but we see this in so many different places in the massive decline in trust of mainstream media. And frankly, that decline is warranted. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the people that everyone's listening to instead, the Candace Owens, the Tucker Carlsons, the Hassan Pikers, doesn't mean they're actually trustworthy at all. But the original media ecosystem, self-destruction, is not unwarranted, that people are moving away from it. And it's this kind of ideological capture and nonsense that I think has made people lose faith. And I'm one of them. That's just my take on it all, though. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. And do consider becoming a channel member to support my work.